Hey, good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. I'm excited to get started on today's training. By the way, today's October 6th. It's a pretty exciting day because, it's Friday. It's always good. We're going to be talking about how to maximize your federal revenue, and I'm going to be coming at it from three different angles. But before we get started, I just like to give a tip to say thank you to those of you showing up early and on time. And my tip for you is do what's not scalable. This is a term I learned a long time ago. This idea of doing what's not scalable means in the beginning when you have your business, and it could be, by the way, if you're a larger company, say you're 10, 20 million, or even 100 million, right? When you're doing something new, you're kind of starting again. But doing what is not scalable means putting in a lot of extra physical effort that just can't go on forever. So an example of something I do that's not scalable is I do this training every single day, and I respond. I try to do it right away, but I respond to every single comment that's in the chat. I'm not really paying attention to the chat while we're training so that I can give you quality training, but I come back afterwards and I engage. And yesterday I had 182 comments in there, and we've done training where we've had 200, 300, 400 comments in the chat, and we engage. And it's hard for me to scale that because as I go through and I'm trying to engage, it's pretty tough. Well, as I go forward in, let's say 2024, I might start trying to get more of my team engaging in the comments to show you the love and that we appreciate you showing up and engaging, and not necessarily doing it myself. Well, it's the same thing with you, right? You might do cold calls, whatever it is. But in the beginning, don't be afraid to do what they would consider as not scalable. Somebody might look and go, well, you can't grow your business to a $100 million company doing that. I know. I'm not trying to grow it to a $100 million company yet. First, I'm just trying to grow it to 100,000 or $1 million, right? And then you begin to automate processes or add in more people, et cetera. So just keep that thought in your mind about doing what's not scalable. It's a great little line that has worked for me, and I hope it's a helpful tip for you. Okay, that was just, again, a thank you to those showing up early and on time. I appreciate you doing that. I appreciate you engaging in the chat. I'm going to be sharing a lot of my screen today, so let me just get my tech ready here. Okie dokie, let's get started with today's training. Maximizing FY2024 federal revenue. And again, I'm going to be going back and forth. If you haven't been here before, I generally don't screen share. I just share slides, but I don't go in to the internet. But I'm going into the browser today, so I need to have more stuff showing. But today we're going to be talking about how to maximize your federal revenue in FY2024. It's October 6th, which means today is the first day of the fiscal year if you didn't happen to start the last 5 days, right? So no matter what you did yesterday, today's the new day of the fiscal year. And so you have a few days less in the fiscal year, but you still got a lot of time ahead of us. There's this great way of looking at life. And the line goes, some make it happen, some watch it happen, and some say, what happened, right? Some make it happen, some watch it happen, and some say, what happened? I don't want you to get to the end of the fiscal year in September 2024 saying, what happened, right? Where was all that spending? How did it get spent? What went on? If you proactively take charge of setting your revenue goals for 2024 and then determining how you can reach those revenue goals, then you're going to be able to achieve those revenue goals. I had a conversation yesterday with a customer, and they were talking about how sometimes people, pick revenue goals for the next year just out of the hat. I said, I don't even care. That's totally fine. I mean, how really can you set it? You can say, I'm going to do it by percentage, or I'm going to do this. I don't really care how you came up with a goal. What I care about is, are you willing to reverse engineer it and decide how many sales, how many proposals do I need? How many opportunities in my pipeline? How many people do I need to know? If you back that all up, then whatever goal you set for 2024, you're going to be able to make it happen. But if you don't back it up, life just will happen. And you get to September 2024 saying, what happened? I don't want you to do that. I want you to make it happen and be able to tell your friends and peers in the GovCon world, hey, here's how I did it in 2024. Here's how you can do it in 2025. So the way I'm going to talk about today's training and talking about maximizing your federal revenue is first, I just want to talk about the budget, right? How do you look at how much money is being spent out there? We hear a lot of big numbers, but really just bringing it down into reality, understanding the reality of a budget helps you from a planning perspective. The second thing I want you to understand is when is that budget being spent throughout the year? So we'll dive into that, and I'll show you how you can learn this for any particular agency that you have. And then the last thing I want to talk about is there's a lot of money that's going to be spent in the federal market, right? Over the next 12 months. I want you to understand that there's not one way, but there's three ways to go after that money. And it's really important that you have a plan for all three as you go forward. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonald. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you to my federal sales training, where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years in the federal market as a small business owner, and since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret, it's a process. When you follow a process A to Z, you're going to have repeatable, predictable results. And this is what you see when I lay it out here as a 7-step process for success in the federal revenue side, right? Research, targeting, outreach will help you identify strategic and build strategic relationships that allow you to identify slam dunk opportunities, be able to write winning proposals, and have sales being awarded constantly to you, right? So that's the ideal of a process, is following the same process, a proven process, and you should be able to predict your success. And as we go into federal revenue for 2024, I want you to be able to do that. Part of the process is just engaging with folks who are in the chat. So make sure you help me, help buyers, and help the people in the chat, in the community, know who you are. Put your company name, put your core competency, 2 or 3 words, right? I can't see anybody's chat at the moment, so I can't see if you did what I'm about to say don't do, but don't put a lot of words in. And I'm not saying it for any bad reason. I'm just saying when you put a lot of words in, we can't consume it in a chat. I told you 182 chat messages yesterday before I even began to engage. And so what that means is during our training, the chat will be kind of scrolling. If you just put a couple of words, it makes it easy to see. And it's okay to chat multiple times, right? I saw so many people yesterday saying, oh, I'm in the Army. I'm going after the Army as well as you. Let's connect. Let's take it offline. Many, many connections. You should go look at yesterday's replay and read through the comments. It's just so exciting to see the community helping each other. People would ask questions of me, and somebody else, 2 or 3 other people would come along and answer it. But these short answers in a chat, that's how you want to use chat, whether it's my training or any other virtual training. Just a few words to get your point across, and then you're off to the races. So again, this is your community. Make sure you engage. Put your agency. I'm going to be talking about budgets, etc. Occasionally, I'd like to make sure I'm sharing information, especially related to budgets, that are in your target agency. If you don't know this, we're doing on October 17th a no-nonsense networking event. This event is it's not designed to be a happy hour. I'm not here to help you have a drink and make great friends. I'm here to help you build connections, right? The reason we all connect with each other is because we're trying to see if there's a way for us to work together and mutually support our goals in FY 2024. I'm personally super excited to be able to go to our first networking event and be able to meet so many of you who have been coming to training, but I can't see you and I can't say hi and you say hi and we see each other, right? And so go to www.govconchamber.com/networking and you can register in there. Let's make this a good event. And if you've already registered, by the way, mention that in the chat, let us know, but also let friends know, right? If you let 10 friends and everybody else lets 10 friends know, then we're building up a bigger networking event that allows you to have a nice large pool of people that you're able to meet and follow up with after the event. Everybody who attends this event, I'm just going to send you the entire attendee list. And part of the registration process is send me your LinkedIn profile so that other people can connect. So imagine being able to connect with 50 or 100 people. I think we're close to 100 people registered already. So, I'd love to have you in there. Okay, let's dive into the spending. I'm going to move fast as we go forward. If you have questions about the budget, etc., throw it in the chat. Even if I don't get it today, I might come back and respond to you in a comment, or I might look at this and go, well, let me create another training. I have done multiple trainings on budgets that you can find in the replay. Somebody, if you're kind enough, can put my newsletter article that has all the replays. If you can put that link into the chat, that'd be awesome. By the way, this is the beauty of a great community. I'm not even just asking my own team. I'm asking the community because so many people would just respond. And I love that. It's so much fun. Okay, so when you think about the spending that's going to happen in FY 2024, it's going to be around 7-something billion, but I just wanted to use FY22 as an example. And then I'm going to go and look at FY 2024 real budgets in a second. But in 2022, the budget was 680 billion, and you can see the top spenders, right? these are big agencies that are or departments that are spending a ton of money. But one of the things that's pretty drastic, and this is not really fair, and I've got to change this in the future. The Department of Defense is like saying civilian department or something, right? Inside the Department of Defense, you have all sorts of small agencies, and then you have three major departments: Department of Army, Department of Navy, and Department of Air Force. And so they have budgets that are a lot closer to the VA, but they're still 80 and 90 billion. We're going to go in a second. But the reason I'm doing this is I really want you to understand the budgets of the departments and agencies you're trying to go after. An example is I was working with a customer who's going after commerce, and inside of commerce is NOAA. And doing the research and just doing, proper process for pursuing an agency, you're able to see the budget is 154 million in NOAA. And the thing that comes up is that if the budget is only 154 million, then there's not going to be a lot of money for growth. And what I always try to say is aim for agencies that can give you at least $50 million a year in contracts. Doesn't mean you deserve it or you're going to get it this year if you're not anywhere near that, but looking at a spend that's big. So for example, Commerce, NOAA was 154, but if you go up to the department, their budget's much bigger. Well, the potential to go to different agencies within Commerce for this customer is very legitimate, and they begin to understand it. And then they start researching those budgets to see if the spend is happening in their area. This is what everybody means when we tell you, go research an agency and see if they're spending or buying what you're selling, right? Of course they all are, but how much and which ones are buying more of it? Army Corps of Engineers is buying way more construction than anybody, right? So as you look at the spend out there, figure that out. Again, put your agency in because I want to track on that, but let's go look at some budgets really quick. And let me track over here, make sure my screen's sharing. I'm going to try to zoom in, but I want to show you first actually this one. So this document, and I wish there was an easy way for me to put this into chat. There's not really, because let me see if I can drop this really quick into chat and somebody just tell me if you can share it with everybody else. Because I don't think what I just did and put into chat, I don't think it goes to LinkedIn. So somebody put it into LinkedIn for me. But in here, this is the federal budget summarized, right? So it's 184 pages. It's my go-to place when I'm planning on sharing content or information out or talking to a customer. I'm able to come in here, and if I come down a couple of slides, right here, I'm able to see all the different departments, and I'm able to track on their budget and their major spend. So if I go to, let's just go to HHS as an example, and I'm going to zoom in for 1 second. Here I can see that their FY 2024 budget is 144 billion right there, and it's a 11% increase, right? I know there's all this debate going on in Congress. I don't actually care what they're talking about because I can't do anything about it. Go watch my video where I say there's a circle of concern, what Congress does, and there's a circle of influence, what I can do. I know that there's going to be a basic level of spending. So maybe it's not going to be 11% increase, but beginning to understand this is really important. One of the other things to understand is when you see something like 144 billion, don't ever take that like that's all being spent in the way that we want it to be spent. A lot of it is earmarked for other things that you can't participate on, but that's totally okay. Let's take HHS though for one quick example. And here's how I go into the budget, right? So I'm just typing in 2024. So HHS budget 2024, I'm able to, and this is Google, right? Hopefully you're tracking that for basic search. Quick sidebar, if you don't know how to use Google, Excel, or some of these other tools, and I'm not being dismissive, if you don't know how to use them, take a week and become a master at this tool and you'll love it. For example, you see how it's like that. If you became a master at it, you could type in file type : PDF. And now the only thing that's coming back are documents that are in PDF. So here is one that I'd like to see. This is a PDF that I could download and research later. I could share it with my colleagues, whatever it is. But here's the budget for HHS. I was just looking at them, right? And let me just zoom in for 1 second. First thing I'm able to notice, if you don't know this, right? I know a lot of this, obviously. But if you don't know this, if you're looking at a department like HHS, it then has agencies. And so for HHS, they've got, I can't remember, it's like 11 subordinate agencies, but NIH, CDC, et cetera. And so as you come down, each one of these have their own budget, and it's a significant budget. If you're a much smaller firm, you should be looking at 1 or 2 of these agencies to pursue within HHS. So let me keep going down here for a second. So as you go forward, this is the part I want you to see. And I can't go too far into the budget as you go down. But one of the things to pay attention to, and let me make sure I have the ability to just scroll without highlighting. Okay, there you go. I can do it like this. So one of the things I'm able to do is to come down and look at the budgets all broken out separately, and I can see some of their priorities. So let's say I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, right? And CDC is one of my top focuses. Well, I can come in here and see what's going on. I can see the major programs CDC has got going on, right? This is a high level look at the budget. It's not even tracking on anything holistic in there. But as I start looking at the budget, I'm able to understand where CDC is spending money, what their priorities are, what they're trying to get accomplished, right? And I think if I'm following it right there, there's their budget. And that seems actually a little high, but that could be it. But this idea of diving through the documents, let me see if I can do this one more time to just show you. So going back here now, CDC FY2024 budget. So the CDC statement, I don't know if that one's the one I'm looking for, but let's just try this one to start. If you go to any agency, you can find their budget material, right? Their job is to be as transparent as possible. And when you get in, you can see what their spend is. So here I can see that CDC's budget request is that $11 billion for FY 2024. If I wanted to, I could come back here and try to align it to what I just saw here. Right. So this is $10 billion in discretionary spending plus $1.2 billion. I wonder if that equals the 1.7, kind of close, or 11.7. Right. And so when I look at this, it starts telling me a trend on it. Something else that's really interesting is that this budget is $2 billion more. And that's a lot more. Right. It's not a token increase in budget for cost of living or something. They're significantly increasing the budget. What are they going to spend it on? If they're increasing it over last year, then they must be spending it on something. So what I want to encourage you to do when you come through is to go to any agency of your choice and you decide what your agency is. Let me pull one more up that just is, I'm trying to pick one off, like Department of Education, right? So education, FY 2024 budget. And let's see if it comes up with Department of Education. There it is. So I can come up with the Department of Education's budget. In fact, I think I just shared something on LinkedIn today about the Department of Education, and I had links to their budget, their forecast, supplier portal, et cetera. So here I'm able to look at 90 pages of the Department of Education's budget, and I can come down and start seeing how they'll allocate this, right? Let me zoom in where they have major programs they're working on, right? If you're going into education, you can see how you might be able to help. So all this stuff, my goal is not to really walk through education, right? It's a 30-minute training and I got lots still to tell you about. But if you come through these budgets, you're able to understand what the spending is. Yes, it's a little bit dry, but it's only dry until you find stuff that is exciting about what you sell. I do this all the time. Like if I'm going to take a stab here really quick, but if I try cybersecurity, for example, I can come down here and see a couple of areas where they're talking about cybersecurity and modernization. So this one's interesting. They're requesting 155 million more or 50 million more to be able to deal with this building modernization, enterprise security, modernization of the department's contracts and grant systems. I have all sorts of customers who are in the digital modernization side, as well as people who are in the acquisition side who might be able to go help with the transition, right? And so just by doing something like that, I begin to use the budget to help me plan out FY 2024. Let me go ahead and close some of these things because I just got to be cautious of my time. But the goal of what I was just showing you there, and let me get back, I don't know where I'm sharing my screen here. The goal of this is to go get the budget for your agency, right? So just go to your target agency, whether it's CDC, Department of Education, HHS, Department of Energy, it does not matter. Go in there and just type in FY 2024 budget. If the agency is like so small that it's not going to have its own, well, it'll be wrapped up to a higher agency's budget and you'll find information in there. It also is a great way to use that as a starter conversation with somebody in your target agency. Reach out to them and say, hey, I was trying to do my research. Just want to take a quick second. Where can I find the budget? I'm looking on your website. I'm looking here. I can't find it. See if they'll help you. And now you've started a relationship just by reaching out. So let's talk about when the agencies will be spending, right? This is important to me that you understand that as you look at, $10 billion an agency might have, when are they going to spend that? And what's the trends on that? So I'm going to talk about agency overall, and I'm going to show you this in a second, but overall, how's the agency spend it? But then I want you to look at it from the perspective of, well, I'm a woman-owned small business, and I'm curious on whether they do set-asides. When do the set-asides happen most? Same thing with your NAICS code, right? When do you tend to spend most on the type of work I do? So I'm going to go in and show you here in a demo. Can't reach the page. USA spending. Okay, so let's dive in. If you're not familiar, this is USA spending. Again, just like Google, you want to get used to using USA spending. It's a fun little tool. It's not any more complex than riding a bike. It has steps you have to learn for sure. But once you get it, you're going to have lots of fun because the data you are looking for, the questions you want answered, can be answered by a lot of the data that's in USA spending. So I'm just hitting search award, start search, and I hit the button, but here it is on top. And I just want to do a couple of things about here I'm trying to say, I want to research the trend of how the agencies spend. And so in this particular case, I'm going to say, show me FY 2022 over there. Show me only contracts. I like to just whittle that down. And then I'm going to pick an agency. And let's go back for 1 second to CDC. Let me see if I can pull that up easily. So the first search I want to do is just CDC, right? What's the trend? And this might be too small. I might go up to HHS. But here I'm looking at the timeline, right? So in FY 2022, the reason I use that is because that's the last complete year. 2023 data is still being populated. But so here's $5 billion that was spent in 2022 in CDC. Well, what's the trend? When do you tend to be spending it? And so what I do is I just come over here and click months. And when I do, look at just instantly the graphic tells us something. It tells us they're not doing, if the trend is right, they're not doing a lot of spending early in the year. Little minimal stuff. And by the way, this often tends to happen because Congress can't get their act together and get budgets passed. But look at the spend, right? You can clearly see that it's a $4 billion budget that they spend, but $1 billion is there, two and a half. More than $3 billion out of a $4 billion spend happens in the last 4 months, right? That tells you a lot about CDC. If they're your target customer, you want to be identifying for opportunities around that are going to go out that way. So you'll spend a lot of time building relationships. But I want to make sure that this isn't just a fluke for 2022. So I'm going to switch to 2021, and then I'm going to run that filter search again. And so what this told me is maybe 2022, it was more of a budget issue, right? It's hard to go back to 2020 to look at that. And so let me expand this 1 second. Let me get rid of 2022. I'm going to just expand this up from CDC to its parent, which is HHS, right? And so HHS just loops all the spending together. If you're tracking along, you can see at the top, I'm saying all contracts FY 2022, Department of Homeland Security, Department of Health and Human Services. So here you can see a similar spend, right? There's these little bumps. It is really interesting. I have no idea why the trend would be like this. And I'd love it if, Shauna Weatherly or some of my other friends who are in the community and in contracting. But look at this. It's like boy, girl, boy, girl, boy, girl or something. It's like low spend, high spend, low spend, high spend. That's a really interesting thing. I don't know why it is. I'm going to look really quick to 2021. So watch this. I'm about to change it to 2021. And here, it looks a little more consistent, right? So you're seeing it consistently spend. But one thing that's undeniable is that there's a lot of spend at the end. One of the other things, though, is as you start looking at this data, just a quick sidebar, if HHS is your target, let me bring it back to 2022, not 21. If HHS is your target and you're looking at this, you can flip it over and go, well, who within HHS is spending a lot? Just click on this categories tab. And over here, I'm only looking at the high level of what I search for. So I can say sub-agencies. And now I can see, well, who's spending the most? And right away, you're able to see the top three are CMS, NIH, and CDC, right? So you're able to track on that. But it's really eye-opening down here that don't spend a lot of time going into some of these ones that don't have a big spend and expect to have a lot of opportunities. Okay, so let me back that away for 1 second. Hopefully that made sense, right? On what I'm saying. Let me just back this up so I can show it just in case you're watching. I'm going to reset the search. What I do when I do the history and I want to see the history of the spend, I come in here and I say, show me the contracts in FY 2022, and I pick an agency. In this case, let's do the Army, because the Army is the most friendly to 8A small businesses. And so if there are 8A small businesses in here, you'll appreciate this. So the Army spend in, let me come back here to the time. Oop. So the second tab is time, and the Army spend, you can see this traction that happened. And it's a pretty decent spend across the year. They do an obvious end of the year spend that happens. And then the same thing here. You can look within the Army. I don't know if they break this down the way I wanted to. No, they don't. Be nice if they did subordinate commands, but they don't. But so you can look in here and you can begin to see the spends that happen. So let's go to the last part, right? When you're thinking about maximizing your federal revenue dollars and you're planning out for it, the first thing you want to do is to look at the agencies and decide where the budget is. I didn't go in, by the way, to see the NAICS code. Actually, let me show you that really quick, just so you see it, because I can do this really fast. One of the things I was saying is, when are they spending on your NAICS code? So if I go FY 2022 and I say contracts, and let's stick with Army for 500. Army. And I'm going to pick NAICS code if I can find it somewhere down here. NAICS code. And let's just pick 1541511. Select that guy and come up here and I submit my search. I can come in here. Come on, Army. I'm loving the fact that this was even happening, right, at a decent speed. So I can come in here and try to see, well, for this NAICS code, when were they spending? And so you should do the same if you're doing construction or training services, whatever it is. Begin to see the pattern in here. By the way, this data will also show you what are the subordinate commands, what are the contracting officers doing that NAICS code. So there's a lot to be able to learn in there on it. All right, so the last thing I wanted to talk about is, if you're looking at how much money agencies are spending, like the Army, where they're spending it, what's their trend, you're digging down. And I only briefly touched about the budget. I mean, very skim of the surface there, touched it. But I have a lot of other ones that dive deep into the budget and how you can find opportunities within the budget that talk about how much cyber dollars are spent, how much construction is going to happen, those kind of things. Well, here, what I want to talk about is, if you identify an agency and you go, look, there's $1 billion going to be spent in that agency in our space, and they tend to rock out RFPs in this pattern over a 12-month cycle. Well, there's 3 ways to go after that money. The first one is subcontracting under small businesses. The second is prime contracting directly with the agency. And the third is subcontracting under larges. I talk about this 3-path or 3 streams, revenue streams. And I say that if you're just getting started, only be subcontracting under smalls. But I'm working with a customer right now who's tracking with prime contracts, just won a big contract with a government, tens of millions, and they're subcontracting under larges. But today, this afternoon, we're having a meeting where they're going to subcontract under a small business, because that small business has access to a contract vehicle where there's a $50 million opportunity on. So this larger small is coming right back around. And what I want you to understand from these 3 paths of making money is, as you plan out maximizing your success in 2024 and maximizing the revenue you get from the federal spend, make sure you have a plan around, how am I subbing under smalls? How am I planning my sales pipeline for opportunities where I'm a sub under a small business? I may sub under a large business, and then some opportunities that I'm a prime going after prime contracts, right? So when you do that, you increase by 3 your ability to go after federal revenue. Instead of, a lot of times, for some reason, us smalls get pushed, or we self-push ourselves into this position where we think the only way to go after federal dollars is prime contract. I got to go prime contract. It's like, you don't. That's a great contract to have, but you got 2 others that can help you build a $100 million firm over years, right, that are out there. And so make sure you put a plan around all 3 of those. Here's what I want you to remember as you go out of today's training. First, go into your target agency. Pick one agency. Yesterday, people were listing their agencies. Hopefully today you listed your agency in chat. Pick one. Go download their budget and spend 30 minutes or 60 minutes If you want millions of dollars from that agency, the time is well spent. Scroll through, begin to understand it. Don't read all the tables too deeply, but jump to the tables and the content that matters and understand that budget and where the spend is, and you'll find a lot of opportunities for knocking on doors, etc. Second thing is just see the spending pattern. In FPDS, it'll help you have an idea of maybe a lot more opportunities will be coming out in April. So let's make sure our resources are aligned to that. And then the third thing I want you to do is just review the long-range acquisition forecast. Align that to the budget that you're looking at. I just put an article out. Maybe somebody would be nice enough to put the link for that. I just put an article out on my LinkedIn profile in our newsletter, and that's a list of the long-range acquisition forecasts. And so go track that, download that. In fact, as you move forward, download that and subscribe to the newsletter so you can be tracking on everything we're doing, including next week's training. Hope you have a good weekend. Remember, government contracting, it is not a secret. It's just a process. I'll see you in the next training.